You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. Snow season is upon us. Dual systems coast to coast bringing both blanket snow and outages to some areas.
We see, three different gangs operating with a lot of activity in America.
The same skilled burglars targeting pro athletes' homes are targeting the homes of people in your community. The sophisticated crime that law enforcement is working in overdrive to halt. Then in a week, it is time to feast on holiday goodness, but how safe is all the food that's on your Thanksgiving table? This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. We begin tonight with more winter weather and severe storms coast to coast for a second day in a row now. Snow coming down in the Northeast, expected to continue over the weekend. Winter weather advisories have been issued for several eastern states, including Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and New York. The National Weather Service says heavy snowfall up to a foot is likely in the central Appalachians. On the West Coast, while the bomb cyclone has ended, another low pressure system is bringing more rainfall and heavy snow to northern California and the Pacific Northwest. A flood watch in effect through tomorrow for areas neighboring North San Francisco. A winter storm watch also in effect for the northern Sierra Nevada, where they could get up to 15 inches of snow. And both of these systems east to west, leaving thousands without power. More than 100,000 customers right now in Washington and Pennsylvania in the dark. New York and California also heavily impacted. Nearly 60,000 and 25,000 customers have no electricity, respectively. Sentencing in Donald Trump's hush money case, which was scheduled for next week, has been postponed indefinitely. This as Judge Juan Merchan agrees to allow Trump's team to file a motion to dismiss the entire case. They have until December 2nd to do so, and then prosecutors will have 1 week to respond. At that point, Merchan is expected to issue a decision on whether Trump is immune from prosecution now that he holds office as president. Meantime, Matt Gaetz, who just withdrew from consideration as President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General, now says he will not be rejoining Congress. Today, in his first interview since, without giving insight into his next steps, he said he felt now was the time to depart.
I'm going to be fighting for President Trump. I'm going to be doing whatever he asks of me, as I always have. But I think that 8 years is probably enough time in the United States Congress.
The Florida congressman resigned last week, just days before the House Ethics Committee was due to vote on releasing a report after a probe on allegations that Gaetz had sex with a minor and used illicit drugs. But even without Gaetz, President-elect Donald Trump is still looking to overhaul the Justice Department when he comes back to the White House. As national correspondent Matt Gelka tells us, it starts with the new Attorney General pick, and there could be more changes to follow.
Pam Bondi is Donald Trump's latest pick to be the next Attorney General. The former Florida AG was named in the wake of Trump's first pick, Matt Gaetz, taking his name out of the running while dealing with a series of scandals and investigations. Trump has long promised to shake up the country's top law enforcement divisions.
We will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled.
Trump and his allies have pointed to the president-elect's legal troubles as evidence of a corrupt system that he vows to upend.
The DOJ and the FBI has been politicized. There's no question about it. We've seen what they've done to President Trump. We've seen the attacks that they continue to go after him with. The DOJ is 100% weaponized.
There's speculation the president-elect will also look for a new leader of the FBI
that I will support and defend.
Trump appointed current FBI Director Christopher Wray in 2017, but he's become a frequent target of Republicans during his tenure. A now deleted post on X from Vice President-elect J.D. Vance indicated Vance was meeting with Trump this past week to interview multiple positions for our government, including FBI Director. Wray and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas skipped out on public congressional hearings this week on national security threats. The decision drew bipartisan criticism.
The FBI has sort of been front and center, whether it was the censorship industrial complex that existed, or going after Catholics, or investigating, quite frankly, parents who showed up to school board meetings under the auspices of the Patriot Act. The Department of Justice has really gone astray, and I think it's time for Chris Wray to go as well.
And Wray's full term would run until 2027 if Trump wants to keep him, which seems like a long shot at this point, after Trump has previously called for Wray to resign and accused him of lying to Congress when he vouched for President Joe Biden's mental acuity earlier this year. Amira?
And Matt, have there been any other names floated for a potential new director of the FBI?
Well, there have. Former Michigan Congressman Mike Rogers was said to be a candidate. Rogers just narrowly lost his election for Senate in Michigan, but Trump advisor Dan Scavino posted today that the president-elect said it won't be happening for Rogers. But another name to keep our eye on, Kash Patel, a former Trump advisor who has apparently been lobbying for the job.
All right, we know you will stay on top of it. Thank you so much, Matt Gelka, for that report out of Washington, D.C. And we are giving you a live look over New Orleans, where police are on the hunt for several masked suspects in a deadly shooting in the French Quarter there yesterday that killed a 27-year-old woman and injured 3 others. New Orleans police say they know who they are looking for. On the far left, Nicholas Miorana has been arrested, while in the center, Daniel Miorana, and on the right, Daryl Adams. They remain at large. Authorities believe the victims got caught in the crossfire of a shootout. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey suing one of his own counties over gun rights. The lawsuit takes aim at a new ordinance that Jackson County passed earlier this month. It bans anyone under the age of 21 from owning handguns and semi-automatic rifles. County Executive Frank White called on legislators to amend the measure to avoid wasting taxpayer money on a lengthy legal battle. Meanwhile, across the country, new data shows a high rate of Republican women now own firearms, then a higher rate than Democratic men. Gallup found 33% of Republican women now have a gun as compared to 29% of Democratic men. In the past 5 years, Republican women saw a 14-point spike from the previous 5 years. And a live look now over the Austin skyline, where in Texas, State Attorney General Ken Paxton is taking on the city of Dallas. The state is objecting to a recent city initiative that decriminalizes possession of less than 4 ounces of marijuana. In his lawsuit, Paxton says the passed amendment violates 2 separate state laws. The authors of the initiative expected the lawsuit, but say the ordinance doesn't legalize marijuana. It just reprioritizes law enforcement's responsibilities in enforcing marijuana possession. Elementary schools in Texas will soon be able to use the Bible in class settings. This as the Texas State Board of Education voted 8-7 in favor of Bible-infused curriculum. The update now allows teachings from the Bible, including the Golden Rule and lessons from the book of Genesis. The update already seeing pushback from parents in Texas who want religion staying out of the classroom.
I think no matter your faith, the parents are the ones who need to be teaching those lessons. We don't want to see that in our public school classrooms.
Beginning next fall, the University of Texas system will be offering free college for those who qualify. Students must be in-state, a full-time undergraduate, and their family's total income has to be less than $100,000. The Texas Board of Regents believes this will help with lowering future student debt. One expert says it's important for universities to make these types of investments in their students.
To open those doors up, it will allow so many more students to access the resources, both academically and career related, that they qualify for and desire through this new program.
And they are not alone in tuition forgiveness. In Boston, MIT announced on Wednesday of this week a similar program to cut tuition for undergraduate students with families making under $200,000. The FDA says Americans don't need to be worried about their Thanksgiving dinner tables. Despite a number of recent outbreaks and recalls, the agency says the food supply is still one of the safest in the world. But some experts have a different opinion. Jeff Harris explains.
An infectious disease specialist I spoke with says technology and testing has kept the U.S. food supply the safest in the world. But a food science expert believes there just isn't enough data for the FDA to make this claim. From organic carrots to McDonald's Quarter Pounders, the U.S. has seen a number of foodborne disease outbreaks this year. But William Schaffner, an infectious disease specialist, and Leanne Jacobs, a food science expert, believe our food supply isn't in jeopardy.
Absolutely, the U.S. food supply is the safest in the world.
I would say that the food supply is certainly secure.
Schaffner says a big reason why is because of advancements in technology. Scientists can now take microbiological fingerprints of specific E. coli, salmonella, or listeria cases and track where it came from.
Our improvement in technology has really helped keep our food supply even safer.
But Francisco Diaz, a food science expert, tells us his opinion is split. On one hand, there's no way to prove the U.S. is the safest.
I don't think that we have any way to claim that position.
But he does agree that the U.S. is leading the way in how outbreaks are tracked.
We are a country that it has the tools to be able to report those cases.
According to data cited by the FDA, high-risk recalls were not unusually high this past year, 179 compared to 145 in 2023, which is another reason why Jacobs believes there should be no major concern about the food supply.
Statistically speaking and practically speaking, as safe as it's always been.
Now, the CDC is also reporting the number of high-profile recalls have slightly gone up this year. 10 multi-state foodborne outbreak notices have been issued this year compared to 9 last year. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Jeff, thank you. Coming up, safety for our favorite athletes is now going beyond the field of play. The warnings leagues are now giving to their players. Then, a kayaking accident that never really happened inside the faked death of a missing husband. And later, homelessness on the rise in hard-hit North Carolina in the aftermath of Helene. How families are coping as providers work in overdrive to answer the call for help. Welcome back to the National News Desk. Tonight, the NBA is joining the NFL in warning its players about professional burglary rings that are targeting them. The Basketball Association telling players to update home alarms and make sure to properly vet contractors. This after Mike Conley of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks fell victim to the sophisticated heists. The homes of Kansas City Chiefs player Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce also robbed last month. And it's not only athletes falling victim. Homeowners across the country are getting hit by multiple gangs that employ a well-executed ploy to get inside.
They walk up, their breacher has a punch device that shatters a window. They go through the window or the window of a door or a window itself, not opening it. And then you have a secondary person that's jamming wireless alarm systems and other communication capabilities.
That's Sheriff Mike Bouchard in Metro Detroit's Oakland County, who says they have seen 7 of these exact break-ins in just the last 2 weeks. Law enforcement says home security cameras, security gates, and alarm systems can help. Nearly 72 million people will be on the road for Thanksgiving travel, and that is a new record. AAA says lower gas costs is a primary driver of that this year. Domestic air travel also projected to set a new travel record. AAA predicting almost 6 million people will take to the skies. Other modes of transportation, including buses and trains, are seeing an increase of almost 9% as compared to 2023. And if a Hyundai or Kia electric vehicle is what you were planning to hit the road with this Thanksgiving, you might want to think twice. The car maker is recalling 200,000 of their EV fleet. The recall affects their Ioniq and Genesis models. Also impacted are Kia EV6s. The issue involves a damaged charging unit that could cause the car to suddenly lose power and speed, increasing the risk of a crash. Owners can take their vehicles to the dealership for inspection and replacement of the fuse inside if necessary.
2, 1, ignition.
Well, there goes a successful launch and return, mind you, for a Blue Origin space tourism flight, the 9th manned flight for billionaire Jeff Bezos' rocket company. 6 people were on board, venturing just beyond the internationally recognized boundary of space for a few minutes before heading back to Earth. So it was a short trip. One of the passengers, Emily Calandarini, set a milestone, becoming the 100th woman in space.
Gosh, and we got to weightlessness. I immediately turned upside down and looked at the planet, and then there was so much blackness. There was so much space. I didn't expect to see so much space. And I kept saying, like, that's our planet.
Pretty incredible. Well, we do have reporters all across the country in your neighborhood covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Wisconsin with the bizarre story of a man who went to Europe after faking his own death.
Christmas is coming. And what better gift he could give his kids as to be there for Christmas with them.
Green Lake County Sheriff Mark Podol getting emotional during a news conference updating the search for Ryan Borgwart. For months, local, state, and now federal authorities have been searching for the man they originally thought drowned in Green Lake.
Great news, we know that he's alive.
The sheriff saying with the help of a Russian-speaking woman, investigators were able to connect with Borgwart, who they believe is in Europe. The runaway married father sending a video to the Green Lake County Sheriff's Office to prove he was alive. Borgwart laying out how he was able to fake his own death, telling investigators he capsized his kayak on Green Lake, paddling back to shore in a small inflatable boat. He then rode an e-bike he stashed near a boat landing from Green Lake to Madison. From Madison, he said he took a bus to Detroit, crossing over into Canada. Once in Canada, Borgwart said he took a plane to Europe.
Thought his plan was gonna pan out, but it didn't go the way he had planned.
The power outage at Bellevue College did more than just kill the lights. Bellevue firefighters had to rescue 2 students from the elevator. Once that excitement ended, reality set in. No electricity means no heat, no hot food, no way to charge devices to connect with parents, forcing some to ask the college for welfare checks.
We're actively responding to every comment that we receive on social media.
College President David May tells me they've been mobilizing as best they can.
I think they're doing a great job. They brought us some food this morning.
Yeah, they brought us like some snacks. I mean, I grabbed just carrots and they got chocolate milk.
We know that it's been a challenge, and we know that it can be scary to have your child hundreds of miles away and not be able to hug them at night.
It didn't take long for our dash camera to find moped riders, including delivery drivers, running through red light after red light and outright ignoring traffic laws right in front of us.
I'm seeing hundreds on a daily basis. I'm outraged that these mopeds are basically taking over the city, breaking every law that seems possible.
But Thursday, the D.C. Council's Committee on Public Works and Operations
MPD has impounded hundreds of vehicles that have been reckless on the road.
Sided with those who feel like Thorpe. The committee unanimously passing new legislation.
Officially and permanently gives the Department of For Hire Vehicles oversight and enforcement authority over carriers for hire.
And if they break the rules, enforcement officers would be able to ticket them, cite them, or impound their vehicles.
In the aftermath of Helene's devastation, homelessness taking root. Coming up, just how many families in one western North Carolina community are struggling after their homes were washed away. Nearly 2 months since Helene left unprecedented devastation across western North Carolina, hundreds of local families are left with nowhere to go. Now, some of these children are living in tents and cars as their parents try desperately to find a new home. The National News Desk's Karen Zakalak spoke with one mother working hard to keep her family afloat as officials scour for solutions.
This is where the kids are sleeping when they do sleep in here, because sometimes they're not even with us because it's so small.
There's not a lot of room for 2 adults and 2 kids inside this camper. But after losing everything in the storm, it's all Dana Wunsch has.
And then me and Jesse's bedroom back there. We got our clothes all thrown underneath there. It is, you know, it's simple. It's simplified living, but we're making it work.
She admits that without supportive relatives and GoFundMe money, they'd be homeless.
I really don't know. I'm probably sleeping in a tent like some of these other families are doing.
Right now, her 8th grader mostly stays here, but her 4th grader is staying with family to be closer to school.
When you have children, it's just a lot harder, and every day I'm just wondering, what is tomorrow going to be like? Are we going to be able to find a long-term place to live that we can afford?
Across Asheville, the Russells are living in their car with their teenage son and 2 dogs. Fortunately, their other teenager, who's still in school, is able to stay with friends.
Since the storm, we've identified 878 homeless students.
878 new homeless students in Buncombe County. That's in addition to the 274 students identified before the storm. That's 4 times as many. 1,152 kids without a permanent home, some living in tents, cars, and campers.
I think there's a very high number of families that's not going to have somewhere to go back to. A lot of our families were renting, and that rental is now gone.
An extra storage room with the Buncombe County Family Resource Center is now filled with new clothes, even shoes donated for those families. Shannon Boyd says the biggest need right now is monetary donations and housing. Some families are staying here at the Gold's Gym, now run by the Western Carolina Rescue Ministries.
How hard is it going to be to find places, especially once these shelters close, for all of these families?
Yeah, it's going to be very hard. You know, a lot of the solutions that are coming up with aren't permanent solutions.
And so we're just kicking it down the road right now.
Michael Woods says there's still about 80 people living here, getting medical care, food, and help finding any available housing. He believes since Helene, the homeless population has grown by about 30 to 50% and doesn't know where those displaced will go.
It puts especially elected officials and those that are in our city and county government, it makes them have to deal with this.
The city is providing more than $2 million for rental assistance and home repairs, and there have been approvals for using federal and state funds for temporary housing. In addition, $6.5 million from the state's Back at Home program is on the way to help victims find housing. But those facing winter with kids and without a permanent home wonder if it's enough.
The homeless population here is already ridiculous, and there were already people without homes. And now to have all these children and families without somewhere stable to live, I mean, they just got to find some kind of solution.
And coming up, the Christmas tree meant to bring joy to households across the country is officially here. When you can expect to see it shine bright, and the man will be there to light it up for his very last time. It is finally here. The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree has arrived in Washington, D.C. to be part of the nation's holiday celebrations. The 80-foot Sitka spruce has been named Spruce Wayne by a social media vote. The tree is from Alaska's Tongass National Forest. It traveled 4,000 miles to get to its home on the ellipse at the White House. And this year, a special lighting ceremony will take place on December 5th. It'll be lit by President Biden, of course, his final time doing so. And don't worry, you can catch all the fun that is meant to be had there. The entire celebration will be broadcasted on CBS on December 20th. So we do have something to look forward to. And that does it for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great weekend.